Hi, I'm David Ferbata with PrecisionAg.com and Agribusiness Global. I'm here with Michael Ott. He's CEO of Rantizo, and he is conducting drone spraying throughout the United States. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
So you've recently gained the first FAA approval to do drone applications in Iowa, and you've recently, since then, expanded into other states as well. Can you talk a little bit about your operation, where you're spraying, and about how many acres you have under management?
Sure. So we received permission from from the FAA in June, from the state of Iowa in July, and we're now in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Illinois. So we're actively ramping up in all of those states. Ultimately, we'll be a services company. We need to sell drones to people so that they can provide those services. So we're ramping up, doing demos, selling units, and we're in all of those different areas. Right now, we're putting together a pretty vigorous travel schedule for the next few months to get out and show people how this works.
So what crops mainly are you applying chemistries to, and what types of chemistries are most suitable for this type of application?
Sure. Initially, we started in high value crops such as hemp, berries, and at vineyards. And that's works really well for what we're doing there. Those are tough things to get into. There's not really an existing system that works very well. So that's where we started. We've now moved into additional commodity spraying. So we've done some corn fungicide work. We're going to do some soybean spot spraying. And then later this year, we'll do some burr cucumber spraying in corn. That's a viney weed that gets on the top of corn that causes issues. We're doing some cover crop seed application. Next week, we're doing some pollen work. So there's a lot of things that are happening.
Do you feel that this technology lends itself to those dry applications? You mentioned seed. There's some people looking at some fertilizer applications. Is the technology there for dry applications?
It is, yeah, and we're doing both wet and dry. So on the liquid side, it's more pesticides, and I mean that in the broader form of pest, insecticide, fungicide, herbicide. Those work well. On the solid front, cover crop seeds, beneficial insects, pollen, granular micronutrients, those type of things work particularly well in the system. We've got a good story to really highlight the benefits of where drone spraying is really advantageous. We had a farmer who had wet patches in his field, so he couldn't plant the whole field, but he needed to get in there and plant something. So he just let these random wet spots go, but he got the rest of his field planted. And as he got through the year, he realized there were a bunch of weeds growing in there, and it was still really wet in those locations. So we mapped out precisely where they were and then flew the drone over and dropped cover crop seeds just in those amorphous blob kind of, one was like a kidney bean, one was the shape of a C. And so we just went in those spots and we dropped in cover crop seeds, and that locked in his nutrients. It reduced moisture and it reduced weed pressure in that specific location. That was a great opportunity for showcase the full capabilities of imagery and drone application.
So are you seeing other opportunistic application opportunities like that, where there might be spot spraying in a field, or you mentioned spot spraying on soybeans? So you're combining a couple different precision technologies, it sounds like. First comes the imaging.
Yep.
And the diagnostics, and then the application.
Yep. And so we are partnering with imaging companies. There's a lot of great companies out there gathering data, and some of them are focused on commodities, some are focused on high value, some are in the Midwest, some are on the coast. We can generally work with all of them because at the end of the day, they'll create what's called a shape file. That's basically GPS locations. And then we can use that as an input in our system and then go precisely to those spots that they diagnose. So it doesn't really matter to us if it's a caterpillar on a cannabis crop or water hemp in corn or whatever it may be. We can just go using those shape files and apply precisely what is needed when it's needed.
So let's talk a little bit about the impact to the farmer. Are you able to quantify if there's volume reductions in what they're spraying in a normal application cycle, or if it's changing any of their chemistries?
Sure. So one of the things that we're looking at is improving their economics. So we're going away from charging per acre, which a lot of farmers just aren't familiar with. They're like, oh, I've got, 200 acres. I'll pay you $8. I'll pay you $12, whatever it is. And they're used to when they've got a problem, they just cover the whole thing. And that's because when you've got a ground rig or a plane, you basically cover the whole field or none at all. You don't really have the option to do that. And when we can show them, hey, it's easy for us to go in and we'll spray a quarter of your field at a cheaper price because you're only paying for a quarter of the chemicals, and our per acre application rates are about the same as aerial. So you're significantly cheaper in total. That's making more sense. I might have to go back out twice or even 3 times, but I'm still cheaper than doing it the whole field using all those chemicals all at once. And I think you'll see as you spot spray more and more, you'll need to use less chemicals, and that's going to change some economic purchasing decisions.
So are you able to say either on corn or on beans, it's reducing application rates by a quarter?
Oh, more than that. Yeah. It truly depends what your issue is. That's really like we saw a thing. This was at InfoAg. There was a farmer who worked with Microsoft, and they had done some scanning, and he said he had a 320-acre field, and he realized he only needed to spray 32 acres. So he loaded up his tractor. He had it all monitored of where he was going to apply. So he drove it in the field and hit that. And I talked to him afterwards. I was like, this is the textbook case of where our system would have been better. We would have had no soil compaction, significantly less time, and a more precise application even than a tractor with the nozzles turning on and off. So that was a situation where he needed 10% of his field sprayed. So that's where it's hard for me to give a number, because sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 80. But when you have that flexibility in the system, you can just spray where you need to. And as long as it's below about 75, 80%, a drone is going to be more effective in terms of costs.
Let's talk about the technology a little bit. Some of these octocopters that are in the mainstream for this application have limited payload and limited battery life. Really the two biggest obstacles to large acre applications. Can you talk about how you're overcoming some of those challenges in some of the places
Sure.
you're working?
Yeah, so we're doing 14 acres per hour right now. That's at a 3 gallon per acre rate. That's important to note that's an on-label standardized rate. 3 gallons per acre, we'll do 14 acres per hour. That's, to our knowledge, the best in the industry. We do that with drones that are below 55 pounds. So with that, we can train anyone to be a pilot. I could have you as a pilot in a couple days if you really wanted to. If this gig doesn't work out for you and you want to become a pilot for us, you're welcome to jump on. So staying below 55 pounds, because really what we're trying to do is solve for the labor issues that are common across geographies and across crops. Everywhere, whether you're in Washington and Idaho or Iowa or Tennessee, everybody has labor problems. So we're designing a system that we can have anyone use. So we're doing 14 acres an hour. That's with 1 unit. Technically, we can fly up to 5 of our units, but legally we can only fly 1. So we're looking at some swarming exemptions, and that'll triple or quintuple the amount that we can cover. Additionally, we've got some automated tendering technology that we're going to be rolling out in the next few months. That'll take us from 14 to about 20 or 25 acres per hour. So we'll have that increase, and then you can multiply it by 3 or 5, and then you start to be pretty competitive in terms of ground covered with what a ground rig would do right now.
Well, that's impressive. And how many employees do you have now?
So we've got 7, and we'll be hiring a couple more here relatively soon. We're excited. The team, there's more than what we can currently do. So we're running at 1,000 miles an hour, getting all these inbound sales leads, working on different display and testing opportunities, ramping up new technologies. It's pretty fun stuff.
You're inventing a new value chain. You're creating a service model where one didn't exist before.
Mhm.
Do you feel like there's other people on your heels that are going to start using a similar service model? Is it possible that manufacturers might push through a similar service model, or that retailers might take on some of this service?
Yeah, we'll be selling through ag retailers, and I think that's a better way to do it. You start to see that with a lot of large companies now. I mean, the famous example is IBM and Microsoft, where IBM had all their hardware, and Microsoft replicated it with software. And you're starting to see that with bigger companies. Bayer is looking at some service model work. Rather than selling chemicals to clean fields, they're selling clean fields. That type of mentality. And this is a perfect delivery vessel for that situation where you can use less chemicals more efficiently and just put them right where they're needed when they're needed.
You mentioned some of the bigger companies. Simultaneously, some of them are shifting to guaranteed production models per acre. Do you see that affecting the way you charge for this service?
So that'll change things somewhat. I think it's in their interest and it's in the farmer's interest to use your chemicals more efficiently. I don't think anybody wants to overpay and spray, a chunk of the field that doesn't need it. Also, there's water quality issues that we're seeing some input from governments that they're strongly behind drones-based application because it's more precise and you don't have those factors downstream in terms of cleaning up the water, dealing with those issues. We're reducing drift, reducing overspray, and reducing chemical usage in general.
I appreciate the offer to teach me to fly the drone. In your experience hiring successful applicators, do you begin with the crop protection expertise, or do you
Sure.
begin with the drone expertise? What's that model look like?
So these units have a lot of intelligence in them, and they truly fly themselves. Like all of our flights are autonomous. So you program it where you want it to go, and then the drone flies, sprays, or drops the solid, whichever you're doing, until it runs out or runs out of battery. It marks that spot, returns home, gets reloaded, goes right back to that spot, and continues. So that's all done autonomously. Literally, you click launch, and then when it gets back, you click land. So that's how hands off it is. So we can teach anyone to do that. We found that there's people that are farmers that understand drones. We can get them up and going in a couple hours. Like it's really quick. We have had other people that haven't had a ton of familiarity with agriculture, and it takes them a little bit longer, but like a day or two, not like, weeks or months or anything like that.
Okay. And then what about the chemistries? We're looking at a slightly different application method. It's aerial application, but it's from a much, it's bare, it's just above the crop.
Mhm.
So have you had to deal with special formulations, novel adjuvants, or any changes to the labeling or approvals of the chemistries that you're currently using?
Yeah, we are doing our best not to change any labels just because that's such a time-consuming process. We believe that we can coat less, and we'll be able to, eventually prove that out. Right now, we're doing entirely on-label, normal aerial rates, everything else like that. If you look at our Twitter page, it's at Rantizo Sprays. And the top tweet that we've got is a fungicide application, and you can see how the drone, when it flies over, it really moves the crop around, and that gets really nice penetration. So in that test we had spray cards at 2 inches, 2 feet, and 5 feet, and we got coverage, pretty good coverage, and excellent coverage there. So that was one that was done in conjunction with a much larger entity, and it was a fungicide trial. We did it with our RTK upgrade. So we were literally spraying down the row that we intended to be. And you can see in that video how it covers like the precise 8 to 10 rows that we wanted and not those off to the side. So we're getting very, very accurate with where we intend to go.
And what's next for this technology?
The next thing we'll be doing is looking into swarming, so flying multiple units. We'll be getting into different states. As I mentioned, we're in 5 states in the Midwest. We're looking to get onto the West Coast and the East Coast because a lot of states have reciprocity that once you can spray in one area, all the states that touch that. So you can see we started in Iowa, Nebraska, uh, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and then kind of expanding out from there. So swarming, and then expansion of different states, and an automated tendering system that can really help those be even more hands-off.
That's great. What did I forget, Michael?
I like telling the story about the first time we sprayed. So it was a cannabis grower that had a caterpillar problem, and only a drone sprayer would work because it had rained for a couple weeks. It was too muddy for a tractor. It was too close to an airport for a plane, and it was an insecticide that makes your lips go numb. And so none of the employees would backpack spray it. And that was the first time that all these factors came together. It was like, oh, we need to do this. And it worked really well. Our customer was very, very happy with it. And it's fun to see how we've improved in yield since then. So the first time we did it, it was 3 acres in 9 hours. Then the next time was 3 acres in 3 hours. So a third of an acre an hour, 1 acre an hour, and now we're at 14 acres per hour. So you can see how that improvement is happening over time. And that's just been a matter of months.
Yeah, that's a great story. In fact, I know international adoption, especially in emerging markets in Southeast Asia and India, are starting to adopt this application model as well for that same sustainability reason. It's safer for workers. It's better. It's better for the plants, and it's more efficacious for the farming operation. So
Yep.
it's nice that we're leading the way, and we'll look to Rantizo as a model for expansion.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to be the first one out there doing it, legally and at scale, and it's pretty fun.
All right, Michael, thank you for joining us. You can see more about Michael and his work at Rantizo at the Vision Conference in January in Seattle. Find out more at thevisionconference.com. And for more on drone application technology, you can find out more at precisionapplication.com, where we're preparing for our next conference in Bangkok in November. I'm David Frabata with Precision Ag. Thank you.